Beautiful. Today we transition into the Manly Minute. Out here live getting set for SACA Fashion Week, and I am dressed in the era of the Harlem Renaissance, which is around the 1910 to 1930. So today's Manly Minute, 5 things about the Harlem Renaissance. First thing about the Harlem Renaissance, it started with the Great Migration. So about 1.6 million African Americans were fleeing the South because there were some laws there that weren't conducive to them and improving their lives. So they came to Harlem, and that's where everything started. They started to turn that neighborhood over, and that sparked the Harlem Renaissance. Number 2 thing about the Harlem Renaissance you probably didn't know, well, it's actually named after the neighborhood of Harlem, which is in the north end of the New York borough that is Manhattan. And in 1910, the population there was about 10% black. By 1930, it was 70% African Americans in that neighborhood, and that also helped to spark the Harlem Renaissance. Number 3 thing about the Harlem Renaissance, well, it was all about African-American art, all right? There was a situation where a lot of the artists were starting to really pick up their steam, and a lot of intellectuals, African-American intellectuals, were making their way to Harlem to really try to get the art scene going, and that's where it started with W.E.B. Du Bois. He was a huge fixture in getting people to think about the African-American perspective on art. Number 4 thing about the Harlem Renaissance, jazz became all the rage. In the 20s, jazz was all about the clubs, and they had this particular style called the Harlem stride piano. So that means that the guy would sit across from the piano. You'd see him with the piano on this side. He'd be playing, but he'd be facing the audience, kicking and dancing and getting them into it, and that really helped jazz become super popular. And the 5th thing about the Harlem Renaissance, it gave us Langston Hughes, the man who gave us the great poem, Dream Deferred. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or does it fester like a sore and then run? All of the great art and the great culture that comes from the Harlem Renaissance. To find out more, go to gooddaysacramento.com. Click on show info for today's date, and man up for looking good in retro threads. Coming up later on today, you know we're talking sports on the radio, hopefully. 12 to 3, a little show we do on Sports 1140 KCK called The Lowdown. Today, the NBA trade deadline happens right when our show starts. We'll talk about that a little bit later on.